In our line of work, we literally take on the stresses and the problems and the nightmares of our clients. If we don't know how to handle stress and emotions well, then our personal lives, our professional lives will break down. So how do we have a fulfilling career taking on the sins of the world without burning out, without becoming jaded in the law field? It is easy to be stressed out, and then you treat your family terribly, you treat your coworkers terribly. For what? None of us signed up to be a bad person, so learning how to manage it well is important. So with that being said, Anna, thank you.
So I want to start off with the idea of just stories. We are impacted as people by stories, by relationships with other people. Right? The stuff that really interests us is things like movies or books or shows that have really good stories that bring out emotions in us. We enjoy that kind of stuff. The difficult thing is when the stories we hear are only sad or traumatic. And if we don't find a way within us to process that, then we start getting into trouble. If it gets to the point where you can't function as well, we call it clinically significant distress, then you're getting into the realm of vicarious trauma. So for instance, you guys are hearing a lot of stories of people who are going through persecution or loss or separation. You might not have experienced it personally, but because you hear the stories about it, you maybe see pictures or videos, or you're just kind of in that client's world, really trying to understand what's going on. So you actually end up getting physically and emotionally impacted by it. Our clients' trauma can and does affect us. In some ways it should. This is very normal, and also it's addressable. How do we know if we're experiencing vicarious trauma? So the first one is physical. Tiredness, but tiredness where it's not just like, oh, that was a really hard day. It's gonna be insomnia, like I can't sleep at night, or I wake up and I can't go back to sleep. You might have a lot of headaches, so it's going to affect our bodies and also lead to a lot of poor self-care. It also impacts us emotionally. So we might feel a lot of anxiety or fear, or a lot of guilt that I couldn't give the client what they wanted. I couldn't do well enough, or this situation is just so hard for this person. Sadness and emotional numbness. Like if you have all this anxiety, fear, guilt, and sadness for a prolonged period of time, one thing we tend to do is we'll start numbing out. We shut it off because it's too much. Other ways that compassion fatigue can impact us is cognitively in our minds. So we might experience some intrusive thoughts. You might not be able to concentrate as well because, again, you're thinking about the case, or you're trying to manage not thinking about the case by staying busy and doing all sorts of other things. So to sum this up, okay, how does compassion fatigue impact us? We're going to be physically unwell, emotionally exhausted, our relationships suffer, we can't focus, and we suffer in how we show up at work. The good news, guys, is that we can handle our emotional pain. We do not have to have compassion fatigue. First thing we can do to take care of ourselves is just recognize signs of stress in ourselves. One of the ways that we can practice awareness and self-monitoring is just pausing and check in. How am I feeling? What happens when I get stressed? And one thing that can help is we reduce our stimulation. So for instance, on the drive here, I was feeling pretty anxious about having to do this. So I turned off the podcast I was listening to and forced myself to just drive in silence so I could just be with my thoughts and take some deep breaths. So a more formal way to do this is mindfulness and breathing. So it can be as simple as just taking 3 deep breaths. It slows you down even just for those couple seconds. You had to stop thinking about whatever else was going on to just breathe. It could also be a progressive muscle relaxation. Practicing meditation or mindfulness has been proven in the literature to help reduce anxiety and help people connect with themselves better. The next thing is boundaries and breaks. This looks like just taking moments to disconnect and recharge. Let's say you have a particularly difficult case that just really makes your head hurt. After you finish working on it or you finish that call, give yourself permission to just take a break. Do something different so that your mind is disconnected from what you were just doing. Another important boundary is a supportive environment overall. Helping create a culture where you guys know that secondary trauma is a thing, and so we want to be mindful of that and help you guys prevent burnout. So encouraging these little breaks, encouraging moments where we check in and chat with each other about stuff or share about what's going on. Don't overwork. When work is done, go home. And this one, I think, kind of Joe referred to this, and this is something that I struggle with too, of what can you control? So if you gave your best to this case, but it didn't work out, being able to have that internal boundary of knowing what's in my control that I can actually work on, and what's just outside of it, I have to learn how to let it go. And social support. So knowing what you can ask your community for help with. It could be as informal as, again, chatting with a colleague in between a difficult client call, or more formal things like this weekly meeting that you guys have and taking the moment to check in with one another. So we don't want to be totally isolated when we're doing this kind of intense work. Last category of coping skills. It's kind of the boring doctors, the stuff that the doctor will tell you to do. Exercise, diet, sleep, going back to the basics. This stuff is actually really hard to do. But if all of this is going well, you're already going to have more margin for the hard stuff that comes up at work. So effective coping is a combination of all these things, your personal habits, peer support, and what's happening in your business or your organization. And protecting your well-being is the best way to actually protect and care for other people. On airplanes, they tell you, first put your mask on yourself before you help your child. When you're not doing well, when you're loaded down by compassion fatigue, everybody else will also suffer. So actually, it's an important mandate to take care of yourselves first. Some questions and reflections. What is one thing I can do to take better care of myself this week? In general, what coping strategies feel doable? And how can your team support each other better?
Let me know, let anybody else know if you're at that 70, 80, 90% mark where you feel like you're almost pushing your all. 1-2 weeks of that is fine, but if it's anything prolonged, that's when we need to sound the alarming bells. We need to pull more people together. The clients are gonna dump all their stress on you. Their family and friends are gonna dump all their stress on you. I can't control that, you can't control that. Hopefully, we can build an organization here where at least we don't dump each other's stress on each other. The beautiful thing about friendship, the beautiful thing about organization is it doubles the joy and it divides the sorrow. So you can bear maybe 10 pounds of stress, but two of us together, we can bear 40 pounds of stress. With a team of people, all the stress that you have, share it with all of us. And when you win, share that, and actually doubles the joy. So that's the power of our organization. I care about each one of your well-being so that you guys can have a long and fulfilling career. It helps no one if you guys get burned out. One of the first things I want to announce, Huang is officially joining the firm as a full-time staff.
I'm Huang. Nice to meet you all. I'm graduating USC this May, majoring in political science.
He's mentored other interns. He knows Kevin really well. And we'll get to know a lot more about you later on.
Thank you.
As part of the series where we invite amazing, talented guests to come and speak and impart their wisdom, Shiloh, the main person doing all the public relations, she's bringing different people in. And so just want to, this is just this initiative of what Shiloh is doing. Just want people to recognize that. And if you guys know any really good, amazing speakers who we can learn from, please let us know. Please let Shiloh know, and we'll kind of arrange. So thank you, Shiloh. Thank you, David.